Kay Aubrey-Chamane didn't set out to start a wellness revolution. She just wanted to save her horse. That moment led to a deep dive into photonic therapy, a whole lot of trial and error, and eventually the creation of a business that's training practitioners around the globe. In this episode, we talk about pushing against that skepticism, staying curious, and building a company that some people didn't believe in, at least not at first. It's about grit, purpose, and building something before the market's ready for it. Welcome to Legacy Unscripted, sponsored by Progeny Coaching. This is the podcast where sports and business collide. I'm your host, Russ Katzman, and with every episode, we have an open conversation with someone who's built something meaningful. It's unscripted, unrehearsed, and unapologetically real. Today, I'm happy to welcome Kay Aubrey-Chamane, founder and executive director of the Photonic Therapy Institute. Kay, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So, one of the things you and I talked about during the introduction is this idea of light therapy. Now, here in the States, this is not a mainstream thing for us. How did this become a passion for you?
Well, that goes back a ways. In the early 1990s, I was doing endurance riding, riding horses 25, 50 to 100 miles a day. But my health had been very, very bad in my early 30s. So coming back in and riding was getting to be able to ride a 50-mile in one day ride or 50 miles 3 days in a row. That was a big change for me. And I bought a horse. We were broke. So I had a vet check done, but I didn't have ultrasounds and x-rays and all of that done.
Yeah.
And this horse and I started training a few hundred miles a week. And when you do that, you're inseparable. Right? This is your partner in life. He was bringing me back to life. And I was riding with a group led by a crazy man who was a chiropractor acupuncturist.
Okay.
We'd go off on these amazing rides. And they took me to my very first endurance ride over in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Everybody else was doing a 50-mile that day. I was doing a 25. So I was with people I really didn't know. We go out, we ride. We're coming into one of the beautiful things about endurance is that there are veterinarians every 10 to 15 miles checking to make sure your horse is okay.
Sure.
You could break a leg and die. They don't care, but your horse gets really good care.
Yeah.
And I came into the vet check and they said, you can't go on. He has torn his front suspensory ligaments. Bear in mind, he hasn't even limped. He had lost a shoe in the back. It threw him off on his balance. And he turned out he ripped both suspensories in both front legs. I was devastated. This horse and I spent more time than I did with my husband in my marriage, right? And the vet said, take him home, bury him. He'd never take a sound step in his life.
Wow.
Luckily, I got home and my veterinarian, who was very holistically minded, said, I've been reading about these red light therapy wraps. So I went out and I invested, didn't tell my husband how much I put on the credit cards, bought these light therapy wraps and started lighting him up every single day. And with this type of tear, the front leg just swells up and it looks like a big C, which is why they call it a bowed tendon. The leg bows out. And I called her 30 days later. I said, you need to come back and do another ultrasound for me because all the swelling is gone. She said, it's way too early. We got 6 months just to even think about rehabbing and rebuilding these ligaments. I said, look, I have a science background. I've got to know where we're at. So she came out. The first ultrasounds had shown that he not only had ripped the tendons, but his legs were full of scar tissue. Turned out he'd had old tears, and that's why he tore so badly. He had scar tissue in his legs that I didn't know about. At 30 days, he'd broken down about 60% of that scar tissue and laid down all but one pinpoint hole of brand new collagen for all brand new ligaments.
Just from the wraps.
And the veterinarian was just astounded. I started hand walking him. Day 1 was 10 minutes. Day 2 was 11 minutes, etc. At 60 days, there was no more scar tissue. I had permission to start riding him. I stayed off of him the full 6 months, but started ponying him behind another horse.
Sure.
A year later, we came back. We finished that ride successfully. He and I went on to ride many, many 25 and 50-mile rides together. He's now 45 years old and meets me at the gate, absolutely sound. He's deaf as a post, has no teeth left. He's ancient. He's like 140 years old in people years, but his legs came back to be better than young, better than a horse that had been ridden he was already 13 when this happened. So that made a huge believer out of me, of course. And my first question was to start researching all this. Could I use it for me? I'd had all these health problems. I had osteoporosis and arthritis and allergies and genetic issues that I got from my family. And the answer was, of course. There wasn't a lot of research back then. Nobody knew why it worked. We just knew it worked. And in the veterinary world, you could get away with things you couldn't in the human world.
Right.
So I invested in equipment. I started using all of this. I started working with my horses. I showed dogs. I used it at dog shows on dogs and their owners who didn't care about FDA approval. And then I started becoming fascinated with using very targeted light to activate acupuncture points. Because it turns out you could use light instead of needles and rebalance the whole body very quickly, and combine that with more traditional light therapy where you saturate the tissue with all this extra energy. And oh my goodness, it was so powerful. And
wow.
By 2004, we bought a historic old horse ranch and really opened a rehab center for horses, and then started building more and more classes for helping horses and pets and then humans with light. So that was my why. And he's still meeting me at the gate every morning.
That's unbelievable. So you never intended to make a business out of this. It just kind of evolved?
It evolved. I had intended to be a veterinarian. And I was in college in the late 70s, early 80s. Women really weren't welcomed at vet schools yet, unless you had a 3.95 GPA, and I had like a 3.68. Organic Chem took me out.
Yeah.
So I'd always been interested in being in healthcare, but for animals. I had no interest in humans originally. And in some ways, that whole process saved me from going down a very allopathic road that I probably, in hindsight, would not have enjoyed. And I started learning more and more about nutrition and detoxification and oxygen therapies. But the more I used light, the more that became my entire focus. There's lots of people doing detox work. There's lots of people doing ozone therapies.
Sure.
Light, the more I used light, the less I needed the other therapies. I don't have arthritis anymore. I don't have osteoporosis anymore. I'm 65 and in better shape than I was physically at 32. And I credit, to some extent, better nutrition, better pH of my body, but primarily the light therapy that I use on a regular basis.
Wow. So this isn't something that most of us hear from our general practitioner or our physical therapist or our specialist. We don't hear a ton about light therapy and how it can work for us. Why is that?
Well, there's a few reasons, right? We use the tools we've learned.
Yeah.
And light therapy isn't taught in the universities yet. There are graduate programs, one in France and one in the nursing college in Canada. But everything else is kind of just buy this tool and you hope, buy a laser or buy a tool and you hope the manufacturer gives you some education in how to use it. It's growing, but here in the United States, our healthcare community, as it were, is controlled by the insurance companies. And the insurance companies are owned by Big Pharma. So insurance companies tend to pay for therapies that that benefit them, drugs, scalpels, billion-dollar machines.
Sure.
And the only time they really will pay for light therapy, or the fancy new word for it, photobiomodulation, is if there is no drug that will suppress the symptoms, if there is no surgical or therapeutic process that they have in place that will overcome it or again suppress the symptoms. So it is now accepted as for oral mucositis, which is pretty much guaranteed. If you've got radiation or chemotherapy above the waist, somebody's going to get oral mucositis. The only thing that really controls it is red and near infrared light in the mouth and blue light for the infection. So there, the insurance companies are starting to pay. Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, issues of the brain that cannot be rectified with a drug. And certainly millions and millions of dollars are going into research to find drugs that will help. But also money is there into studying photobiomodulation because it is proving very beneficial for issues with the brain. And interestingly enough, issues with the brain can be greatly benefited by putting light on the stomach, because they've discovered there's a connection between the brain and digestive health in our microbiome. And we have more brain cells in our digestive tract than we actually do in our skull. So the more we light up the digestive tract, the more we benefit the brain.
That seems so bizarre. Just that whole idea. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, well, and I've heard something similar to that because who was it I was talking to? It was a guy in one of my networking groups I met with was talking about the gut health and how important it is to your entire body because of its tact to the brain and that. And you kind of think, okay, yeah, this is a gut health guy. I mean, he's going to explain that. I never realized that fact that there's more brain cells in the gut than there are in your head.
Well, I've never seen a count. I've read a few papers that talk about that there's this type of cell in the digestive tract. We also know that the biggest part of our immune system is in the lining of our digestive tract. Yeah. So it makes sense. And one of my heroes or heroines in the light therapy world is a researcher in Australia, and her team has spent the last 5 or 6 years, and they've published a lot of papers, 2004, 5, and 6, on this connection between the microbiome, the digestive microbiome, and the brain for Parkinson's. And it's proving incredibly effective, at least in slowing, if not staving off, the effects of the disease, improving quality of life, improving the ability for the proper locomotion and so on.
Yeah.
So I am more of a clinician, training clinicians to work directly one-on-one with a human, with a horse, with a pet, than I am an ivory tower researcher. And so I read a lot of PubMed articles. I research them, but then I look at them and go, but is that how light is used in the practical world?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of conversations when I go to the big meetings and they're all still griping that insurance isn't paying for photobiomodulation. And I say, you're coming at it from, you've spent 30 years, like Thor Laser. The head of Thor Laser is a brilliant man. And he opens every one of these talks with complaining that 35 years in and insurance still doesn't pay correctly. And I said, that's because you keep trying to prove it from the top instead of demand it from the bottom. Acupuncturists, massage therapists, chiropractors, they had to have their clientele demanding that insurance start covering this. And unless the general public knows that light therapy is an option, they don't know to ask insurance companies to pay for it. So my job is building an army of light therapists and home users, educated home users, that demand that insurance start paying for quality, professional level equipment, start paying for therapy services, And then that's going to work its way back up to even more money for research, more money for better tools, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, you touch on something there that I find interesting with a lot of my clients, and that is that the vast majority of people are searching for that blue ocean, right? They want to design their business in the blue ocean. Those of you familiar with blue ocean strategy, et cetera. They want to have something in that blue ocean. The difficulty of having something out there that there isn't the same competition, the same knowledge of, et cetera, is that education aspect. Is that we need to educate our consumers. We need to educate the public. They need to know it's an option. They need to know that it's just as good, if not a better option than some of the things available to us. It's just there's different incentives in place that are driving behaviors from our current
Absolutely.
insurance companies.
And I know a lot of people who invested 10, 15 years ago, 5, 10, 15, $30,000 in light therapy systems
Mhm.
for themselves, for their equipment, for their clinics. Some of them $6,500, $150,000. Doctors getting big laser systems, and now they see products coming in on Amazon or eBay, and they're like,
Yeah.
but, and why would anybody come to me? Why would they buy anything? I said, because if they buy a cheap tool off Amazon, it might do something, but if they don't know how to use it, if they don't know
Yeah.
how to measure the light coming out of it, because they're not getting told how much light or what wavelength or any measurable statistics and output parameters,
Right.
they're not, they might buy a $12 face mask off TikTok, and it might help clear up their skin. That much light directly against the skin might open a few pores. That doesn't mean they're going to be knowing how to address serious health issues with it,
Yeah.
or even first aid-ish things. I never go anywhere without a light therapy torch in my purse, because I've had people next to me on an airplane go into asthma attacks and forget their inhaler, and I can help take them out of it in seconds with just a light therapy tool.
Really?
Or, yeah, I mean, you can stop an allergy attack. You can reduce a muscle cramp in usually 15 to 30 seconds. You can overcome serious pain. You can clean out a wound and trigger the wound to seal faster by bringing in the repair materials you need, by getting light on it very, very quickly. You
Huh.
can calm panic attacks. Or for me, I had 3 dental implants put in 2 years ago. I spent the majority of my first 40 years of life terrified of the dentist, because I had such painful and poor level care when I was a
Mm.
teenager. So I avoided it until my late 50s. And then I started using light for panic attacks. Had no issue. I said, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to have my implants put in. And implants are a big deal from the
Yeah.
point of view of, cutting into your mouth. I used light in my mouth on the way there. I used it on the way back. I never took any additional analgesics. And I was ready for my abutments like 2 or 3 weeks faster than the dentist expected, because it all
Mm.
healed up so quickly. So there's so many ways that you can use light. The 3 things that we can say about light, right, that the FDA will allow you to say about light,
Yep.
is that it will lower pain, increase circulation, and stimulate cellular repair and regeneration 200 to 300%. So 2 to 3 times faster. All right. But that's about 90% of fixing almost anything, right?
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, I'll take that.
If somebody says to me, oh, I tore my rotator cuff.
Yeah. Been there.
If you were in less pain and had better circulation to that shoulder, and the rotator cuff could repair 3 times faster, do you think that would be a good thing? Well, yeah, right. You can.
Yeah.
And so when somebody says, what do I do for XYZ? I stop and I say, well, would being in less pain, having better circulation, and stimulating new cells faster be a good thing? Well, yeah. And so you put it back to them to think about what it is like to do for them. Now, there's getting slow benefits, and then there's getting bigger benefits. And that's learning how to properly target the light, using it in the right order, using the right colors at the right amount. But in general, it's get the light on where the problem is. If you just start there, you're going to make a benefit. You may not get the fastest benefit, but you're going to have a benefit. And there's never been a negative side effect. So why, of LED light therapy, why not use it?
No, I love it. That's really cool stuff. So talk to me about the business side of it then. Talk to me about some of those challenges. Obviously, there's an education aspect. You're always going to have that as part of what you're doing until this becomes widely accepted and people take it as a normal part of life, etc. But talk to me about the actual building of the business, finding people to go along this ride with you, finding your first markets and your first sales. Talk to me about what that was like.
Well, I did it wrong for 20 years. Okay? I tried to over-explain. I was still in that. I didn't finish my veterinary license, right? So I had a lot of, but I'm not a vet. Nobody's going to listen to me.
Yeah, little imposter syndrome. That happens.
A lot of it. Until one of my dear friends, who was my veterinarian, said, but you taught me how to do this. And I went, oh. And he said, just tell people you train. When they say, are you a veterinarian? Just say, no, I teach veterinarians. And it shifted all of that for me.
Yeah.
And then, but I had, up until that point, always been trying to prove that light did something. Even on my website, I've got a curated library of hundreds of research articles by what does it do for athletes? What does it do for, for Parkinson's? What does it do for sprained ankles? Okay.
Sure.
So there was always that proving energy that came with it. But when I slowed down and just said, why don't I just tell people the 3 things the FDA says I'm allowed to tell them? Boy, did that. It was like I got out of my own way.
Yep.
And then in 2017, with 2 partners, we decided to codify it all, make an institute, create an online training program, because it's very difficult for people to come out to a live class, or for me to fly all over the world and teach 5 people at a time with a horse.
Yep.
And so we did the online courses, started in 2017, and then the best thing that happened to us was COVID hit.
COVID.
It was an opportunity.
Yep. And you were already there.
We were there, but it kicked my butt to learn how to do, we did a couple of live summits, online summits.
Sure.
And because we had the websites, we had it online, we were able to put that together in the matter of 6 weeks. That built our credibility, that built our business. I can say that one of the best things you can do as a business owner is marry your IT department. My husband is a lifelong.
But literally married your IT department.
Yeah, he's my geek. He doesn't design pretty websites. He makes all the underlying coding work, and sending out the SMSs and getting the contact management systems going, talking to each other, and all of the API calls and so on. Outsource what you don't like doing. For me, that's the bookkeeping. I don't want to do bookkeeping.
Yep.
I don't want to have to know why HTML works or have to do it. I want to be able to say, make my website pretty. I can do it. I'm technically proficient enough to do it, but I'm smart enough to know that's a waste of my time. So, hire people to do the things you don't like to do, figure out how to do that at an affordable rate, and just focus on what you're passionate about. We started in 2017 with Photonic Therapy Institute. We decided we would do a weekly recorded webinar on one aspect of using light for a horse, for a dog, for a human. And the first 6 months, it was basically the 3 of us talking to each other online, over Zoom. In fact, I think it was GoToWebinar when we first started.
Yep.
I now have 600 hours of recorded webinars. usually with 75 to 150 people that come week after week or are brand new. And of course, it's those new ones that the new ones bring us new money. The old ones give us the testimonials and the brags and the stories. And that keeps our customer coming in. That's our top of funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Then we drive them to starter classes, and then we, those who want to keep going can take more advanced classes, etc. And I just tell people, if you want to do a business in light therapy, find your niche. Don't try to be everything for everybody. You want to work with high school students that run track? Do it. Be there. You want to work with senior citizens with dementia and aging issues? We'll help you figure out how to get in front of those people. You want to work with dogs and cats, and great. Be consistent, show up, go where those people are, and make their animals feel better, and you can build a business quickly. A good one. That's what I did for the first 10 years that I was using light. I built a business at dog shows. And I worked on the dogs and I worked on the people, and I made good money because they were absolutely grateful. And dog show people are very competitive. They'll pay whatever it takes to get their dog going around the ring beautifully.
Yep.
So find your niche. We're here to help you target that niche. And so we have a coaching program that helps people to learn more, both about building an online business, how to use social media, how to brand yourself, how to use Canva. I don't do that. I have other people that teach them that. And then online, we do online training and coaching for advanced light therapy, clinical work.
Well, the beautiful part about that, and I say this quite a bit in my own business, because I do a lot of work with doctors and lawyers and accountants, and those that are highly specialized learn a lot about their business, don't learn how to run a business. Right? They learn a lot about their practice. They don't know how to run a practice. The beautiful part about what you're doing is you're educating that entire being, right? Let's talk about light therapy, but let's also talk about Canva and social media and some of these things that you're going to need to help support your ability to get out there. Now, for you, you benefit from that, obviously, for multiple reasons, but not the least of which is there's more people talking about it that way. Exactly. The more you can get out there, the better you are.
And because we're in a rather niche business, like you said earlier, people in the United States don't really know much about light therapy. I've had people come to me and say, well, but I want to be the only light therapist. I said, no, you don't. You want to be in a market that has 50 light therapists, but you want to be the one that knows what they're doing. So everybody else is advertising the therapy, and all you have to do is be the best one there, to brand yourself as knowing what you're doing. Because I can guarantee you that 99% of the doctors, the physicians, the chiropractors that own laser systems or even LED systems have no idea how much light is coming out, how to use best practices, how to follow a dermatome, how to do any of those things. And so when you show that you know what you're doing the best for your niche and how to really do that, it's going to separate you. But they're all going to be talking about why light therapy. You're going to be talking about why you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that quite a bit. So talk to me then, Kay, about some of the challenges you have ahead of you. What's coming down the pike for you? What do you see ahead that you're going to have to evolve into in the coming years?
Well, number one is I'm moving away from selling any equipment. I mean, we have our own branded equipment finally after years of just reselling others.
Yep.
But I'm not going to compete, nor do I want to sell on Amazon. Don't care, don't want to do that. I don't want to be the manufacturer, and I don't want to go head to head with billionaires that can put together better sales processes than I can. But my challenge is still to know enough about all the equipment out there that I can guide our students to use professional tools either through us or through our main competitors. And I keep a track of what all of our main competitors, we offer classes to the customers of all of our main competitors. We keep them, keep your competitors close.
Yeah.
And most of them are friends. For me, My challenge is getting out of my own way and making time to market myself as opposed to just the business. My goal over the next 2 to 3 years is to move on more speaking opportunities,
Hmm.
whether it be virtual, like I'm doing with you, or on stage. I love speaking on stage. I love speaking to groups. I love stump the chump audience interactions and answering questions.
Yeah.
And to do that, I need our technology, especially right now, we're moving into a new storefront. We're
Hmm.
moving up to like a Shopify,
Yep.
which I will be so grateful for in that once it's done, other people will manage that. Up until now, I've had to manage all the underlying stuff,
Hmm.
but I've brought on a really knowledgeable VA. I'm uh, building my team to be much more independent of me now,
Yep.
which has been a hard thing for me to learn. I'm a control freak. The first thing for me to learn in 2017 was to have a team instead of to quit trying to do it all by myself. And now it's, I have a team, let them do the work. Let them get it wrong, let them figure
Yep.
it out. Don't get upset when they get it wrong. Just give them the tools to learn it, to do it right. So I'm being better about investing in the right tools and right training for them as opposed to just for me.
Gotcha.
I'm a lifelong student. I love learning new things. Not everybody always wants to,
True.
but I've been building a team of people that want to.
Well, and to your point earlier, you have to evaluate what are those things that you are necessary for, and it's most important that you complete those things as opposed to those things other people can.
Exactly.
In that vein, obviously, we'll set aside the marrying of the IT department, but for you personally, what was that hire that you made that was probably the most significant difference in your time, in your understanding of the business, that just you were able to hire this person, they were a key to getting your success in place?
Oh, two. One was a VA that knew my tech stack better than I did.
Okay.
And better than my husband. So I hired somebody that could go and create. I use what used to be called Infusionsoft and is now Keep,
Yep.
and is very complicated. And getting a VA that knows how to use that and write well, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that, turning a lot of that over, that was huge. And then about 2.5 years ago, I hired a social media manager. She'd been working for us part-time. I had her meet me at a conference. I was speaking at the Association of Natural Health. I hired her to fly out, meet me at the conference, record what I was doing, be there to help maintain, be in the booth, listen to what I was saying over and over and over again, learn what my messaging was. And at the end of it, I was so impressed with her. I said, okay, how much? I want you full time. I don't want you focusing on anybody but me. She
Hmm.
quoted me a price, and I said, absolutely not. I'm going to pay you more than that, because she was that good, and she was undervaluing herself.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I paid her what she asked in a year, she would be ready to move on. And so now what I did this year is she and my affiliate program manager are now on profit sharing.
Yep.
So the more they bring in, the more they're going to make. So they control their own destinies. I'm not a big fan of the CEO making hundreds of times more what their staff does. I
Right.
basically make what my staff does, plus, if the company makes a profit, yes, I'm going to get that profit, but I also do some distribution of that at the end of the year.
Yep.
2025 was a tough year. We didn't have big profits, but that's okay. My team knew they were still taken care of.
Yep. No, that's terrific. I love that model. I always say that the owners should get paid a couple different ways in the business. Obviously in the role that you are, right? When you're educating, when you're literally teaching other individuals in the courses, any of that kind of stuff, you're being paid as an educator, as an educator would in your business. Then you get paid as an executive, right? You should get bonuses based on the success of the company, maybe profit sharing based on success of the company, because you are an executive of that organization. But then you're also an owner. So you can't forget about dividends, or however we want to phrase it, from a business that is growing. And so I think any good owner should get paid similar to that. I think you're right with your key employees. You can get them into profit sharing, not equity sharing. Equity is more like gold. We should be treating that with
this
a
is
little bit.
profit sharing. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
when we all if you bring in more customers, you're going to make more money.
Yep.
You have direct more time and effort you put into that, or the better you are at what you're doing. I don't care if you work 20 hours instead of 40. If you got really good at those 20 hours producing,
Yep.
that my team is all over the United States. I've got people like United States and Peru. So I don't care if you work 2 hours a day or 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
You've got a project. I trust you to get it done. We meet on every Monday, and you're going to tell me where we're at. And that has that was a real shift for me. I grew up. After I got out of college, I was a travel agent. I was a tour operator. It was still me.
It was you. Yep.
And then I went in to start doing the light therapy and teaching. I was teaching classes as early as 2001. My first class, the second day was when the planes flew into the towers. Let's just say class was canceled.
Yep. Sure.
And so it was not an auspicious start, but I was still by myself. And learning to do it as a team has been huge.
That's terrific. So one thing I always have to ask before I let you go, let's go back to Kay of mid-90s. Maybe we give it a few more years after you kind of learned about light therapy and you started to design the business. What would you have told that Kay about the road that's ahead? What's the one thing you wish you'd have known at that point?
Um, be better at telling people about yourself. Don't hide. Don't hide. Don't sit back and expect people to find you.
Yeah.
Because if they're not looking, they got to know you're out there.
Yeah.
And that's why I said the best thing I did was hire a social media manager, because I don't just go and make video clips of myself being intelligent and giving wise advice, but she can do that for me.
Yeah.
She makes me look way more smart than I am, right? And so that really helps. Getting out of my way. One of my team hates being on camera, which is where I was 10, 15 years ago.
Mm.
And getting her on camera is like pulling hen's teeth. And it's like, look, if you want to do what you tell me you want to do with your portion of this, you want to go out and really, blaze a trail in the horse world, they've got to see you. And so if you don't like being on camera, have somebody else put you on camera and edit it.
Yep. And you'll get used to seeing yourself on camera after a while.
Exactly. I didn't used to like my voice on camera.
Oh yeah.
Or on podcasts. And
Yep.
now it's like, oh, that's what I sound like. Okay.
Yep. And you get used to it, and you start to get this reinforcement from others who come back and say, "Yep, I heard that voice. I know who that is." Right? I had somebody do that on a LinkedIn post I had not long ago. They said, "Oh, there's that calming voice I always remembered."
Aw.
I didn't remember that. I didn't realize I had a calming voice for that individual, but clearly I did. So no, it's good to see. Yep, we get used to it. So, Kay, anything I haven't asked that you want to throw out there for the audience?
No. The main questions I get asked from a point of view of business building in the light therapy world is who can do it? And the beauty is anybody can. You don't need a college degree. We work with everything from single mothers wanting to start a business in the back bedroom to people with, who want to pay for their horse habit. So they start doing light therapy on horses at their daughter's gymkhana or barrel racing events.
Sure.
To world-class surgeons who need to not be the only money in the clinic. Right now they can have their non-licensed staff bringing in paying customers. Well, they can call them patients.
Sure.
And so the beauty with light therapy is you can augment any other modality with it, especially when you learn to balance the nervous system with it, when you learn to establish a much healthier health foundation with light, then every other modality is going to work better. You can improve your clinic or practice bottom line by putting non-expensive licensed medical practitioners to work and adding to the billable hours, so to speak.
Yep.
And if you are in a connected industry, nursing homes, rehab centers, you can be not just supporting your patients, but your staff with light therapy, giving them benefits that really don't cost you anything, but have measurable results in lower turnover, lower burnout, etc. So that's where my message is going more and more and more, is looking at not necessarily talking to the surgeon, but talking to his clinic manager, right?
Yep.
How can we help your clinic and train all of your staff to be able to add these benefits so that your surgeon gets better results because his people are ready for the surgery or recover from the surgery faster? That kind of thing.
Very good. Well, we'll help you get the word out. We'll get this out so people can hear it and see it. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you, Russ. And anybody wants to look at the courses can just go to photonictherapyinstitute.com.
Well, we'll get those links into the show notes so they can grab them. Appreciate it, Kay.
Thanks, Russ.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Legacy Unscripted. If today's conversation sparks something in you, don't just let it sit. Take action today to build your future. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with someone who may need to hear it. And if you've got a story to share or you just want to connect, you know where to find me. Until next time, keep it real, keep it bold, and keep living your legacy.